Hi, everybody. This is Byron Lehman at the YouTube channel, Jittery Goat, and also I have the website, jitteryg.com. And I think just a couple days ago, what I did is I went in the archives of some short stories that I've written in the past, and I tried to see if I could dig out something and post it on the website. And I found this story, and I thought, wow, I kind of remembered it when I saw the title, and then I reread it as I got it. It was called Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands. And of course, Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands was really an epic song that probably a lot of people today don't know about it, but it was a Bob Dylan song. And I remember hearing it in 1966, I think, maybe 67, but 66. And I had a friend that played it for me, and boy, everything was a metaphor for something different in life and so forth, and he could really see into it, and I really didn't see too much into it at all. And I kind of liked the music, but I didn't really get the message, I guess. And so I had to go back to the 60s. I think a lot of times, for myself personally, when I heard a lot of the singers like Bob Dylan and Joan Baez and some of them, there were a lot of protest songs because of the war and because of social issues and so forth. I mean, I got some of it, but there was a lot that I didn't get. And I always thought they were creating a problem where there was none, but maybe there was, I don't know. But I think there were young people back then, my age, maybe a little bit a tick or two older, a tick or two younger, who were true believers, who believed that they could change the world and make the world a better place, and everybody would just love each other. And everything was based on love. There would be no greed, no borders, and things like that. But frankly, the current political structure and so forth, that's never going to happen. Things are going to continue on as they are in one form or another. So I go back to maybe a couple years ago. I saw this older couple. I can't remember. I really can't remember the setting now, but I just remember seeing them, and they were my age, and again maybe a tick or two younger, or a tick or two older, and they look like hippies from the 60s. They really did. It looks like they were still part of the movement. And I thought to myself, in my head, I said, wow, true believers, they never changed. I kind of admired them for that. And yet at the same time, I look back to those people who kind of led the movement, at least the artists that made that started the movement, particularly the singers. They all became very rich, very wealthy, very powerful, and celebrated. And here are these true believers. What did they become? Because they look rather disheveled and so forth. And I think that the truth of the matter was, and I've stated this a lot before. I wrote a poem about it, but at one time, because I think the Dylans and the Baezes and the Lennons, John Lennon, not Vladimir, I think that they sold. They were believers. I think they believed in what they wrote and so forth, but they became very rich over the conditions that existed in, and they became rich over this couple that I saw, who, from all appearances, they were in poverty or near poverty anyway. And they didn't look happy. They looked sad, especially the wife. She looked very sad. And I remember singing, and I said, "Sad-eyed lady of the lowlands." I just went back to that song from the 60s. There she is. And so, um, like a lot of times, I let an idea germinate for a while, and I went back and sat down on my computer and I wrote this story, and I titled it "Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands," and it was based upon these two people, and where they really come to the realization that they'd been sold snake oil. Uh, that these people, like Dylan, Baez, and Lennon, and I'm not saying these people weren't great artists. They were, uh, but they were kind of like the rainmakers, maybe of 100 years ago or so. They would go into a town and they'd have all these gizmos and they'd promise rain. And when the town went to sleep, they'd sneak out of town with their money and their gizmos and go to the next town and promise them rain, if, especially if there was a drought going on and the crops weren't growing. They were nothing but rainmakers, and all in the sincerity of a rainmaker. So that was my feeling towards their their music, towards the movement, and also towards this couple that I saw. So I wrote this story. So as I got done though with the story and kind of editing it a little bit and changing some things, and I began to think that really, what is there a lesson in this story at all? And there was, as I came I just wrote the story, and it came quite naturally what the lesson was. That when a couple marry, they marry for better or for worse, and all married couples, they're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, so to speak. They're optimistic about the future, and suddenly life gets in the way. The world doesn't change um, to meet their narrative. As the world just goes on, and you have to adapt to it. And some don't, and some do. And because sometimes I'm really kind of amazed at the hippie generation. Uh, how many of them became, like Wall Street phenoms, and but this couple that I wrote about, they didn't. They were believers. They stayed the same. They stayed true to their convictions when they were in their early 20s or whenever it was. However, again, getting back to me, the point of the story, as at the end of the story, they realized that even because everyone else had left them, so to speak, the movement had went on. Everybody had changed, but they hadn't changed. The world had changed, but they hadn't changed. They still had each other. And I think that makes the story a good story. Um, it's only about, it's just a couple hundred words, maybe 300 at most. I think that's what it is. I looked at it just a few minutes ago and I said, wow, it's not very long. And what about as a writer? How does that help you as a writer? Well, I think that writers write, and sometimes they're not. We don't get the big idea for the big book, the big novel, and so forth. And again, that takes a lot of work. Sometimes it's not it's not a spark of inspiration. It's a spark and another spark and another spark, and then you get a flame, and next thing you know, the house is on fire. And so I think when you see something small, write about it. Now, what I always thought that I'd write this little vignette or this little short story, and I'd pack it away, and I thought, well, I might be able to use it some other time. And I think the only time I can really use it is now, is just to publish it and let someone read it and let it stand on its own. And maybe it's just good enough to stand on its own. So you as a writer, if you write something that you think is not earth-shattering or earth-moving or is meaningless to anybody but yourself, I think there will probably be other people that might enjoy what you've written. So write what you think, let it take on its natural life. Everything has its natural life, whether it's one page or whether it's 1,000 pages. Um, if it just has one page, let it have its natural life. Let it live and let it die. And see if you can share it with someone. And if you can't share it with someone, just leave it where you have it. Like in my case, that short story just rested in a disc for a couple years before I blew it off, and I put it in the computer, scrolled through it, and I saw it, and I said, well, that's a story I think I'm going to publish. So that story is at my website, jitteryg.com, and I'm going to post a link to it in the comments section, and you can go to it. But anyway, that's just a story I thought you might enjoy, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about it. Actually, I'm looking at the time in this video, and this video is far, far longer than the short story. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoyed the short story. So I always like to leave you with these words: do good stuff, read good stuff, write good stuff, and see good stuff in others. Okay? Take care. Bye.